anytime I see shoes, anytime I see little kids in shoes in Africa, it is one of the most I don't know. I don't even know how to think about it, but they're almost always used, and they're almost always on a kid. Not all the kids wear shoes all the time, but this is one of our little guys at Nkwatia, and so I thought we needed that. So these guys were going to Ghana, West Africa. We could carry 3 bags apiece, up to 50 pounds each, and so we were taking a lot of stuff with us. And so this is us getting ready to go to the airport with 31 cases. And so just getting them packed, let me go back. Just getting them packed and figured out. The other thing was for us to keep up with packs that all looked the same, we needed to know what was in the case, because if some of them don't show up while you're over there, you don't know what you have, you don't know what you're missing. So we cataloged every case, numbered them, and tried to have a system, because if we missed some, we wouldn't know what we would be looking for. And so the next challenge was to get through security. Taking 17 people through security can be somewhat of a challenge as well. Just getting all our bags checked in. We show up and we've got 31 bags, and we just take over the whole line, and everybody's looking at us like, what in the world? And so we had a couple hours in the airport. Everybody kind of went their way, came back, got on the plane, and it wasn't $866, but that's what Google said it was at the time. But it was exactly 9 hours and 5 minutes, if not a little bit more. The only other thing about this map that's not right is we actually go up over the Labrador Sea, and we go over Greenland, Iceland. It's a lot shorter trip when they make the curve over the top of the globe. Come into London from the north. So we are in Heathrow for a couple of hours, 3 hours. We got to go through security there again, which they really mean it when they mean no liquids, right, guys? No liquids, yes. What do we say? Okay, sorry. Jeez, relax. And then we flew another 8 hours. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So we'd already flown that evening, spent 2 hours. Was it daytime in London, right? And then we fly over. The other thing is, if you notice, you fly over the Sahara for like almost 4 hours. And that can be some of the most maddening stuff, because every time you look out, it's just sand, just more sand, sand. And then, so we did sleep on the plane. Don't give Molly a hard time. She sleeps like her mom. So, I was really quick on that. I wanted to be quick. I just tried to, and I also showed my wife, so I'm trying to be fair. And we were in Heathrow for a good while, and so I think they thought we brought a body in when we saw this. So, the blessing, God was with us through the whole trip, but He was with us. All 31 cases showed up, which is a miracle. Doug and I went in 14, and we only had 4 cases, and we didn't get them all. But we think the color of the cases, they figured out, well, we think we know whose these are. So we had to get those, and then this is after about 22 hours of travel. Had to get through security and go through immigration. So we didn't know if Bailey was going to make it. We were a little nervous. Thought we might have to leave her at the airport. And then our limo showed up. And we had to get all these cases into a dark parking lot for our limo. And we loaded all these cases in the back of this yellow bus that you guys bought at one time. And all our luggage is in the back, and we're in the front. And the blessing of this was the fact that we were in a bus that you had to have the windows down, because when you have 17 people, 6 of them teenagers, that have traveled for 22 hours, you want as much ventilation as possible. And so we got there late that night, got into our rooms, got all our cases kind of divvied out and delivered. And we had planned, we knew what our trip was, so we planned for this, because the next morning we were up and back out, headed to the eastern region. And so we headed out, and the very first thing we did was have a flat. So I'd stop at the gas station. This is the maintenance crew for the gas station. They keep all the grass down there around. So we got the flat fixed. And then we traveled a lot through the country, some major highways. And then this is, you see the hill, we're headed up that hill. This is in downtown Nkwatia. And it's a smaller city, but it's a city nonetheless. And so this is the traffic we had. We're sitting in the Land Rover, and then the van, that green van up front, has the rest of the team whoever that might be at the time. So we've got to the Boateng house. The Boateng is a house built by a doctor, built it as a hospital, and couldn't keep doctors there in the eastern region. And so it's now a place, it's got like a guest house, very nice place for us to stay. Got there late, got everybody in their rooms, got everybody figured out. This is the house. So you can see it's 2 stories. There's rooms all the way around it. The car on the right was not ours, but this is what we traveled in. So we had 22 people because we had 17 on the team, a driver for each, a cook, and 2 cooks. And so we all 22 people went in those 3 vehicles. So we had 4 people in the back of the Land Rover. We had 2 people in the very back of the van sitting sideways. And it was usually the long-legged ones for some reason. Yeah. Yeah. And that's right. We had a plastic lawn chair in the middle because there's not many lawyers in Africa. There was a plastic lawn chair in between the 2 captain chairs on the van. So we were able to see where you would be going through the windshield. You would be able to see it as you went through the windshield, if that was absolutely the case. But this is a beautiful spot. We had a great place to stay. A couple of us stayed in a different house. The driver stayed in a different house, but it was all there on the compound. And there is a house at the Village of Hope called the Boateng House that this doctor also built for kids. And so it's always nice to have great benefactors. This is where we had breakfast. Not a bad place. And everybody's like, ooh, the humidity was 120%. So, ooh is right. It was great. And at the same time, you didn't get out there dry. So this is the school. This is the Church of Christ School at Nkwatia. It was taken over by the Village of Hope in 2012, I think. Maybe actually 2010. But this was a school that was going under financially. They asked the Village of Hope to take over. And so this is where we were working for the next 2 days. This is the back side of that same building. All the rooms have a door on each side because they need cross ventilation. And all the kids take advantage and just walk out of class. That was one of our challenges. We went around and greeted everybody, not quite so cheerfully as I'm doing there. But Richmond Chwum is the headmaster. Richmond was one of the teachers we trained on the team that went in 2004. He was teaching at the Village of Hope, and he's doing a fantastic job there. So we went around and greeted all the classes. We introduced ourselves to them. They would introduce themselves to us. Each child would stand up and tell us their name. It helped us because they speak very quietly. They speak with a different accent, so we were learning the accent at the same time. And Stacy got to meet, well, let's go back, another Stacy. As soon as she said name Stacy, we're like, you got to meet our Stacy. Anything about the introductions or anything about just getting there to the school? I didn't ask you about the trip because it was just hard. But anything y'all want to add as far as just getting to know the kids and the introductions? And so I got to meet, his name is not Michael, but I had a picture. And the funny part is to watch the other kids look at like, what's this guy's problem? He seems so pale and old and all these things. We had a couple of girls in the youngest crowd that absolutely lost their mind. They'd probably not seen white people. They were, as soon as we walked in, they started screaming. They're like, what is that? So they were a little bit put off by some of us, to say the least. So part of that day, Sabra and Stacy took the teachers and were training the teachers. And then Vince and I said, we've got this. We took a pre-K room 3, pre-K 4, and you see this, and you see this. These are the only 4 seconds of that time that we were in control. Seriously, I have taught gang members. I have worked crowds of 500 people. They absolutely ran me over. We spent 2 hours just trying to survive, and it was not pretty. Vince and I just walked out and we were just done. We're like, I don't know, we have no skill. But we had rock stars on the team, and as soon as Bailey could get to a baby, she got to one. And as well. And even Dad, Brad, got down there with it. He was a rock star. He even had his rock star glasses on. And then Trey always had kids around him. Molly, this is the next day. We had brought jump ropes and things. But the kids, see, he's got his rock star glasses on too, doesn't he? But definitely the kids flocked to our kids, and they were great examples and very patient. Even Byron was a rock star. Either that or he's being attacked. I'm not really sure. This is Katie, and she was definitely a crowd favorite as well. They all loved Katie because she carried the camera. Several years ago, we'd asked for money for buses for this school. The buses were run down, and for us to get kids to this school, for them to pay their fees, for this school to be sustainable. We don't send money to this school to keep the school going. This school is self-sustaining. And so, because people pay their fees, and so the buses were part of that plan. Here's the bus. Here's the bus driver. And like every bus driver, look at Christine's over there going, what? Christine Sugg, we have a place for you in Africa if you'd like to go. You and Jean can drive buses for us. And just like every bus driver, their problems are behind them. If you notice, a couple of the ladies up front are actually on staff. They ride the bus to and from work with the kids. They're not, they may monitor kids, but that's not their job. They are just actually riding home. In this bus, I don't know if it had been modified, but what you do is you put 2 or 3 kids in a seat, there's a seat in the middle that folds down, that they've added. And so by the time you're done, you can put a lot of little African kids in those seats. And there's 3 in one seat, there's 1 in the middle or 2, and then there's 3 in the other seat. So they go across. So you can't get up and down the aisle because there's somebody sitting in the aisle. Again, there's not as many lawyers in West Africa. Part of what we did train teachers. We did want to hang out with the kids, but part of our job was to teach Scrabble, because Scrabble helps kids learn their English language and vocabulary. So we actually printed up Scrabble boards on polypropylene. You guys donated boards that we took as well. And so we found on Amazon these very cheap wood tiles, and we made 33 Scrabble sets, which were a lot cheaper than buying them in the box, but also that we think they're going to survive a little better. But we taught all these kids to play Scrabble. And so you guys, I want to hear, as I'm going through the pictures, anything that you thought, she's helping. She's not letting them have it, by the way. You do not know how to spell Scrabble. That's not what she's saying. That's just, I thought that picture, I'm like, I know what she's doing, but it looks like she might be doing something else. But any comments about Scrabble or working with these kids, particularly at Eastern Region? Yes. Yeah, we had to argue about, first off, is it an English word? Is it the other? And so we had groups that were playing, groups that were helping. We had dictionaries out. This is Vince. If you don't know who Vince is, Michael Ann's husband. And he was a great part of the team as well, as was Michael Ann. Molly was helping, and Molly's saying, I think that's a word. So, I'm sorry, Bailey. I'm sorry, Bailey Joe. My bad. There's 6 of you. I'm working on it. So, this is not Molly either. So, Molly's very glad about that. There's Molly. We can say Molly now. Now, this is our rock star also, and she's showing them how to draw. But if you notice, I wanted to show you this picture because they've got her hands in her hair. Because when you go, the saying is, a child will come to their mother and say, Mom, today I saw an Obruni. I saw a white person. The mother's response is, did you feel their arms? Because most Africans don't have hair on their arms, and most of us do, particularly some of us older ones. But they love to feel our hair. And if you sit down, they're going to check it out. And so she was a rock star in and of herself. So, and we did get to train teachers. We talked about discipline a lot. One of the challenges with the discipline is one punishment for everything. So if you drop your pencil, they cane you 3 times on the back of the leg. If you stick somebody in the neck with your pencil, you get caned 3 times on the back of your leg. So when you drop your pencil, you might as well stick somebody in the neck. It's true. It's seriously the issue that we have to deal with. So we're trying to talk about the difference between developmentally appropriate behavior or inappropriate behavior as opposed to defiance, and when we do those things. And we're not opposed to the spanking part as much as if you spank them for everything, then nothing seems to work. One of the things we did do at the end is because of your donations, everywhere we went, and all the entities that we worked with, they got sports balls, some pretty heavy duty rubber ones because they're pretty rough on them. We took those and jump rope, Scrabble, and also whiteboard markers. They don't use chalkboards anymore. They all use whiteboards, and the markers they get are pretty cheap. So they all got a good bundle of whiteboard markers because the kids use them at their desk. They use them on the board. They play soccer. They play basketball. They play volleyball. We took them jump ropes, and we took them Scrabble boards for them to use in the education of these kids. So obligatory picture as soon as the camera comes out. This is a good bit of the kids before they go. We left the next morning. As we leave, we were up on that hill behind us, all the way up to the kind of the top area there. Matter of fact, the name of one of the cities or the little town we stayed in was named Top of the Hill. And this is us coming down. George there in the red shirt is our driver, and you see the trucks there. And I think we were exchanging cash. And then we went to Paradise. So this is the Paradise travel stop. We were able to stop. It's almost like a Buc-ee's, but not quite a Buc-ee's. A QT maybe. But they had juice, they had food. We have to be careful what we eat there because there's not necessarily bad germs in it, but they're germs we don't know how to handle, so we were very careful in what we ate and how we ate. But we also were able to get fresh fruit juice everywhere we went, so we tried to do that as well. And a flushable toilet. You can stop some places, and it's a stall. That's all you got. It's a stall or a wall for the men is what they provide around the corner from that. And then, so we did learn something. This is on every stall door in this bathroom. If you didn't know this, you've learned something new today. But it also, one of the things it does show is, number one, how used we are to having nice facilities. The other piece to that is the fact that not everybody has these facilities, and not everybody, even in this culture, knows how to use these facilities because they don't have access to them all the time. But I have pictures from everybody. We all have a picture of this, so I thought we should add that to it. We were lucky enough to get back on Saturday. Juliet, who was one of the kids that we kind of took a little bit under our wing before when we were there in 04 and 06, she got married that day. So we came in at the end of her wedding. We were able to meet her new husband and family. It's kind of a full weekend celebration. They were there at church on Sunday. We missed the wedding, but we were very glad to be able to see her. And so we kind of spent the rest of that Saturday almost recuperating from both trips. Then Sunday morning we have service. And all the kids that are boarded there, they have a boarding home for the elementary. So we have kids as young as 8 that go to boarding school. The boarding school students that live in dormitories, the girls wear white, the boys wear white to church. And the kids in the homes, the kids in the regular orphans' homes, they wear whatever, but the girls that are in the dormitories, they wear white to church. And this is their church service. This is all the homes, children's homes, and the dormitories for the school on Sunday morning. This building is actually a meeting hall, a testing center, and they use it for the local congregation there. Made up mainly of kids and house parents. Anything y'all want to say about service? Anything that stuck out to you? The singing was very good. And when we were there in 04, it wasn't as good. They've actually worked on, 4-part harmony is not part of their culture. And the singing, they have been working on this through all the grades into college, and the singing is very good. And we have some recordings. I just didn't bring them for you. We may post them on the website. The only challenge with the singing is great, but you don't always, because of the accent, it's sometimes different. And so they have a slideshow just like we do. And I think they stayed on it pretty good. But the kids are there. We had 2 baptisms that Sunday we were there. The baptistry is up the hill from the building, and it's where the old worship center was. So we had 2 baptisms. Patience was one of the girls that has actually come to church here that was here for the surgery on a tumor in her face. And she came to worship with us. She was baptized this day. So it was really cool to be there for her baptism. And of course, all the kids gathered around. And so that's the whole group. Sunday we spent, again, kind of recuperating, getting ready. The next morning we went back to that same building because that's where they do their school assembly every morning. And that's what this is. They sing as well. It's a Christian school. It's a Christian academy. They expect singing and praying and Bible reading, and they do that every morning in their chapel. All the kids that come to school on the buses, all the kids that live there in the dormitory, all the kids from the village that come there are expected to wear their uniforms, sing, read, pray, all those things. So it is definitely a Christian academy. And they also, for those of you that were old school LCU, ACU, Harding, there are chapel checkers, or at least chapel monitors. If you're sleeping or talking, they come over, snap their fingers, hit you on the back of the head. Some of them had a sash, I think, during church, but they keep everybody straight. Anything about assembly that you guys? So lots of kids, almost 600 kids in the school, and so we fill the place up every day. And again, a lot of the kids come from the surrounding villages, some almost an hour away, on a bus every day to go to school here. The parents pay the fees, they go to schools, the buses help get them there. Then that afternoon, we were doing professional development, and you can see how excited Byron is for yet more staff development, particularly since he knew it was me teaching part of it. So I did that, and you can see how interested they are. But we did have a moment or two. They really liked it. And then Michael Ann taught CPR. Trey did a really good job of being a guy that might die. And so he was a good sport. We used him pretty well. But Michael Ann did a really good job. And it's like any staff training you go to, there are people there that don't want to be there. And so Michael Ann had to do everything she could to kind of keep them interested. But I thought she did a good job, and they kind of figured out what the proper CPR technique was, which they needed. The other thing we did every day, particularly that first week, was Hope College. I'll show you where it's at. It's on the same campus. It's separated by a river and a gate, or a creek and a gate. But they have chapel every day at, was it noon? 11 or noon. But we went, and one of us spoke every day at chapel. Oh, 10:25. Yeah, there we go. It's right there on the clock. So yeah, we went over there. It's 10 o'clock is what it was. So 10 o'clock every morning we went over for chapel. And this is Vince speaking to the group. I did not get pictures of Byron or myself up there, but Katie also spoke. And Katie had taught a lot of these kids in art class. And they've gone from the elementary, and they've gone over there. Also, Fred wants me to tell you, this is chapel, not church, so they have girls speak. Everybody relax. He wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. But Katie did an excellent job, and it was really cool because she did know a good bit of those kids when they were younger, and now they're in. And Hope College is actually high school, 10th through 12th grade. But it is a boarding high school. The kids that lived in the orphanage go through the gate, across the creek, and they live and they're boarded there at the school like all the other students. So every kid lives right there. Nobody gets bused into the college. And again, the college is basically college prep. It's a 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Sabra and Stacy worked on training teachers, and one thing we found was you can do a workshop, but it's better if you can get in their classes. And so they did that. They would kind of do a lesson for the teachers. The teachers would kind of get to see how to do that. I had a set of kids while the teachers were in there, and we did some of our dad's stuff, or Strong Father's science stuff. So here's all the kids throwing paper airplanes off the building. I don't know if that's a good thing to teach a group of kids, but we taught them anyways. And then we made mousetrap catapults. The funny part was watching them, how scared they were of a mousetrap, which is pretty typical for everybody, but it was a big deal. So they were making mousetraps, and we were flinging marshmallows through the mousetrap. Molly and Wendy were busy making a cell. They put tarps together, taped them together, and made a cell that you can inflate with a box fan, and the kids can go into it and see the different parts of the cell and talk about it. So that's what it ends up being. She's not wearing it, she's carrying it. It looks like she may be wearing it. And then we did go to the beach one day. It didn't just wash up a family for us. They were already there. A lot of people had a good time. Wendy and I were there. You can say, they're like, this is wet. It's sandy. It's salty. And you can tell the redheaded guy with the hat and the long sleeves. And I think my knees got sunburned, but other than that, I was good. But what we spent a lot of time doing was at lunch and after school, while the kids were either waiting for a bus or waiting to leave, we got to spend a lot of time with them. So the kids took crafts. We did play Scrabble. We played all kind of games. And they would just gather around. We'd pull the phone out. You pull the phone out, you'd have 40 kids around you. I started showing kids bull riding videos that I had. And so a bunch of kids would come by every day. I want to learn to ride a bull. I want to ride a bull. I said, okay, we'll just go get a bull, and we'll do that. I would like to ride a bull. And I'm like, okay, we'll work like I'm a bull rider. I just had videos. And then we tried to get them involved at the end of school. They kind of assemble back up, and we had the kids working pretty hard. This is where Sabra and Stacy were. This is where Deja is. There's some coverings there where they meet underneath that. Trey is always mentoring. Everywhere you look, Trey's mentoring young people. They tend to be female high school students or middle school, ninth grade. But he's always mentoring. But they did, we peeled bananas, we did JESUS, we did all kind of things. And kids worked really hard to try to get some of them involved. You can see we're involved. You can see some of the kids are involved. You can see some of the kids are not so sure. The one right there on the far right is the best one. Like, what are they doing? But under these same tarps, or under these same awnings, we did Scrabble there as well. And the kids, they got into it every time. They're very competitive. They're very genteel people, but they're very competitive. Very sharp kids. But again, English is their second language. There's probably, I think, almost 20 tribal dialects spoken at the school if they don't speak English. There's a tree, which is Ashanti, but all these kids come from different regions. So we were learning how to say hello in all these different languages. And then we would just pull the tiles out, help them spell words, do things. And the buses would come by, pick up a load, take some to a short range, and they'd come back and pick them up for the longer trip every day. So the other thing, we would do devos every night, and was it Tuesday night, I think, they met all the houses, the kids in the homes, the kids in the dorms all met together, and they had like a song fest. And we were going to sing, and they said, your group has to have a couple of songs too. So each home would get up and sing a song. Each dormitory would have a group. So the kids would get up and sing, and it was almost like a competition. It was like Africa's Got Talent. So we got up and sang a couple of songs. It was fun. They liked it. But some of the groups were really good. They had a couple of one group from the boys' home that had been working it, and we've got their recording. They did a really good job. And you could tell the pride that they had in it as well. But you would find us on the basketball court. You'd find us on the soccer field. You can see me not doing anything but sitting there in the cowboy hat. But if you would just sit down, kids would come to you. So part of our ministry was trying to just be there and get to know these kids and hang out with these kids. Trey, again, is mentoring. Always mentoring. Okay? I only got one picture of this, but almost every night at 6, every night in the homes, the orphans' homes, they do a Devo, and then they do their homework. And it's student-led. The parents are doing their thing, and the kids are directing it. And they do an amazing job. To have 20 kids in a home, and they all know, we're going to sing, we're going to pray, would you pray for this, would you pray for this, would you pray for this? They pay attention, they do it, they get right on their homework, much like your children. Okay, maybe not. But we were invited in, and we tried not to lead it, but they would bring us in to either speak or to pray. But it was a neat deal, and we're tired, they're tired, but every night at 6 when we could, we would try to get into the dorms and do that. Again, we got to go to chapel every day. This is them singing. 400 kids that have been taught to sing. This is at Hope College. All the buildings are brick. This room has fantastic acoustics. These kids sounded amazing. And it was very uplifting every day. This is also student-led. This is high school students coming in, doing their own chapel, saying their own prayers, doing their own speaking, doing their own management. They come in and then go out. We had some challenges with the way they ran classes and how the kids reacted and respect and everything else. And then we realized that's different, but, could we ask 400 of our high school kids, y'all go do chapel? I don't know. So, but we were amazed at how they would do that. We spent time at Hope College as well doing Scrabble. Because again, these kids are still learning English. And so, the level was different, but the learning was the same. The enthusiasm was the same. And I really was challenged by, is this really making any difference? But when we got there, to see their excitement and to see that they really are learning new words they don't know. And so everybody kind of had a squad where they were helping. And again, gathering these folks around the table was not a problem. And they did a good job. I got to talk to these teachers. We talked about professional decor and professional behavior, because we have some of them that are not, they're showing up late, they're leaving early. Same problem we have with teachers sometimes here in the country. But one of the things we were talking to them is what a good teacher is and what they should expect from the students. And then part of my job is, as the president of the board for the fundraising arm of VOH here, I kind of got to lay the hammer on them a little bit of, we're paying you good money to teach these kids. We expect you to show up and do your job. And we try not to be too heavy-handed, but we had to make sure they understood this is a very serious thing. They understand it's a really good school in the country. There's other places they could go to work that wouldn't give them the same benefits that we give them, not only in pay, but the type of students that we send them, the type of resources that they have. And so that was part of what we talked about as well. Again, our team, always around the kids, always making friends, but not just making friends, being good examples, doing that. There were always some girls following boys, it seemed a lot. Some of you may remember Seth and Stephen. Anybody that's gone or anybody seen our pictures, they were little bitty guys. These two young men, grown almost out of high school. The fact that they haven't killed anybody or been in jail is quite surprising to most of us that knew them when they were 7. But they're really fantastic young gentlemen and doing a great job. We took a tour of the facilities. Is there anything you guys want to say about Hope College or the school? Huh? The singing was great every day. Just amazing. Yeah, we did that at church as well. So what they would do, you want to tell them? You've got the microphone right there. Oh, no, you can. So I'm trying to give you all a chance. At the end of every church service and at the end of every chapel, they would bring a student up. They actually just drew a kid's name out of a bucket. And they would come up and they would say a blessing on them. And then we would sing and pray over that one student. So every day a different student was being blessed. And we would, as the adults and the teachers that were there at chapel, would circle around that child. And there was a blessing at church as well every Sunday. They would bring somebody up, and it was very powerful. And it was interesting how God would work by the kids that would get drawn to be in front of us, that we would be able to see or talk to. And then when we were there the Sunday after Juliet got married, we brought them up as a couple and were able to bless them. But we spent one afternoon just touring the facilities and kind of getting all the information. This is Fred. This is the courtyard at Hope College, and I'll show you all of this in a minute. But we were able to take a tour. We have a ton of pictures that we wouldn't have time to show you. I was able to take the drone because there's not as many laws in Ghana. This is the whole facility. So the school that you saw us at right there on the bottom right is 3 stories. It was 1 story in 2004. A few classrooms in 2003 when the first team went. That hall that we met in, that we had church in, that we had chapel in for that's that big building right there across from that. They're not connected. They look like they are. The buildings right there to the left, does this laser work? There it is. These buildings right here are the dormitories, and these are the dormitories for the kids that go to this elementary. This is a K-8 building. And so pre-K-8, or yeah, K-8 because the other kids are in another building. But they live here. These right here are, these are 2 of the newer homes that are built. These are built to handle 2 sets of parents and 2 groups of kids in the same home. One of them was built by a bank that just wanted to give money to the Village of Hope. It wasn't necessarily faith-related. They just knew the work they were doing for children. Both these homes were built in the last probably 4 years, 5 years. This is the hospital. This is the original clinic that now has a hospital on part of it. This presently is the optometry and dental building, which is about to move. And then the doctors and nurses, actually a couple of them live in this part of the house, so they're right there on facility. And then these 3 houses are the Barnett houses. And real quick story. They're named after the 3 wives of one man. So he was married and his wife died. They had kids together. She died. He went to Ghana with his second wife. She fell in love with the kids, but she found out on that trip or after that trip that she had terminal cancer. And so she died just pretty recent after that trip. And so he, in part of his process, raised money in her honor for a house. And then he thought, well, I had this other wife, and my kids are kind of on me. So he raised money for the second house, named for his first wife. Well, then he got married again, and if you're the third wife, you're like, hey, where's my house? So all 3 of these houses are named after a wife of a really good man. It is Barnett Boulevard there because we had to name something after Don Barnett because he built his 3 houses. These 3 houses, and we'll talk about the numbers in a minute, we have fewer kids living in the homes because they've graduated into the boarding schools at the high school and college level. And so these 3 are becoming wards for the hospital. You guys that are keeping up have noticed that we were raising money for a pediatric building. This is the pediatric building. Flight attendants that fly on Delta that go back and forth to Ghana raised $100,000 to build a building for babies to be taken care of. They went to the government, and the government would never take their money. They wouldn't give them a commitment. They waited a year or 18 months to try to get the government to do something. They found out about us, called me, and as soon as I found out they had $100,000 for that, I called Fred, and Fred said, we will take it. And that building is there, and we are now in the process of outfitting that building. So all this right here is actually clinic. Then we have the older children's homes, some of the original homes. This is the preschool. This is a chapel and a resource center. And then these are guest homes. And then these are also staff housing here. The girls' dormitory there's a house back here, and there's shower units over here. This is Hope College behind us. So let me show you. This is, you see the school. Now you see the hospital up front. These are the 3 Barnett homes. These are some of the original houses. There's 3 homes here, and there's another home here. And then this was where you see the basketball court. We stayed in these homes right here. These were the original guest houses and still are used as guest houses there. Or actually, no, they're over here. These are the staff homes, sorry. And this is Hope College. You see the creek. This is the girls' dormitory. These are the staff homes. The boys' dormitory is being built here. The boys' dormitory is presently built out of wood, which you have to replace about every 2 years because the termites eat the whole place up. Like, it just basically would fall apart if they weren't repairing it all the time. So they're building it out of bricks just like this other house. It's a girls' dormitory. Boys' dormitory will be here. There's a wall here because there's shower facilities and bath facilities here. And so the boys they already have their bath and shower facilities, and they come over and they'll have their home right there. There's a gate and a bridge right here, and this is the creek. And then this land was donated by the village chief because he knew what good job they were doing. This is where they built Hope College. So this is the chapel area that you see right here. And this is the quadplex. This is the dormitories for the boys and the girls with teacher housing. We look at putting teacher housing here. Most of the money donated for this facility came from one man, Jason Hackman out of St. Louis. Gave the original $500,000 to build these buildings, and he continues to fund it in different ways, from the cafeteria building, the building where they eat, to the soccer fields, to everything else. So anything about any of the facilities or anything that you guys want to share? Those of you that went in 03, it's not the same place. It's absolutely, those of us that went in 04, we were blown away with how that was. These are the house parents. These are the folks that are taking care of the kids every day. They either are in a home full-time or they're a part-time house parent, and or they're working in the orphanage. Like I said, if you look on your bulletin, there's 137 kids in the orphanage right now. We used to run about 260, but they have graduated again into boarding high school or college. And so that's where we had the facility to give to the hospital. And we will grow that number, but we've got so many kids in high school and college now that we're funding that we've got to wait, and we don't bring any more kids in. We did bring 25 kids in. The government brought us 25 kids all at one time from slavery. They were sold by their parents to work for fishermen in the Volta region. And we used to have to go somehow get them from these folks, and finally the government got the guts to say, this is already against the law. And so they didn't give any compensation. They just said, you can't own a child in Ghana. And they brought 25 kids to the Village of Hope and says, we'll be back to get them. And we ain't heard from them since. So we're in the process of helping kids get back to their villages. And there'll be a good bit of those 25 kids that end up being raised at the Village of Hope. And they're being integrated right now into the dormitories or into the children's homes. They weren't in the children's home because we thought they were going to be there short term, and it's become long term. So they're now being integrated slowly into the homes. They go to the homes to get help with homework, to do devos and everything like that. Anything about the homes that you guys want to talk about? Everybody's like, no, don't ask any questions. This was a picture. I was just there. I had gotten up, tried to do a little workout, hadn't showered, and all of a sudden, all the wives came over to me like, I don't know. And I'm like, go away. Huh? The what? Yeah, I was mentoring like Trey. Yeah, whatever. We spent one day in Accra, and we did the sightseeing that we did was about some of the other things. This is Heritage Christian College, which is not associated with Village of Hope, but it is a Church of Christ school, and we send a lot of kids there. Fred's boys both go there. Both his sons go there. And it's a great college. They were just doing preaching, and now they're doing other degrees as well. And they also have a fantastic entrepreneurship program. We went to Naswam Road. Naswam Road Church of Christ is the largest church in Ghana, even larger than Vertical Center at Tema. It's 3 stories. This is one of the meeting areas. This is their main auditorium. But there's also a worship center for the deaf ministry, which is where Fred got his start. Which is where Byron's dad has done quite a bit of work and actually brought Fred into the work. But this building is fairly new. This was not the building that was there when we were there in the past. And actually, we got to see the framework of the building there in 2007, and it was neat to see the whole building. And it's right there in the middle of the city. It is in a big corner. They have the old building, and they have offices on one side. They have more offices, modern offices, and these facilities there. And then we were able to go to yet another part of the Village of Hope, which is Ayawasu, which is the Vocational Training Center. This is where they make the bags that you guys have bought. This is a new building. It is a dining hall. It is offices on top. Everything else was in small, squatty buildings before that. This building has been built, and you see the water tanks and all the good things that are going on there. And so these are the facilities there. This is us going into what used to be one of the dormitories. It's now their fabrication center where they teach sewing. Most of the Africans make their own clothes. If you see a kid in a T-shirt, it's a T-shirt that came over on a container in bales of old, basically they buy up old T-shirts at Goodwill or whatever, and they put them in bales and they ship them over. And people will sell a bale of T-shirts on the street to different people, individuals. But they make most of their own clothes. So as these students that were not able to get a regular education come out, they're learning a skill that is actually very needed. Every village we drove through, you could find the guy making clothes or the girl making clothes. They had their own shop with a sewing machine. And so these guys are learning to do that. And so they're making all those bags, making all those things. These are the over-the-shoulder bags that some of you have bought. This is Bailey and Logan trying to figure out how to push the pedal on the sewing machine, because these are pedal driven, just like some of your grandmothers use, because they're not always going to have power, and so they've had to learn. And these are heavy duty sewing machines. A lot of them are sergers. And they're also quite ornate. And some of you ladies would love to have one of these. Some of you have never seen one. But these guys know what they're doing, and they're making all kind of things. This is one of the bags they make, maybe one like you guys have. They also learn auto mechanics. Not the same kids. There's an auto mechanics program. There's a sewing program. There was at one time a catering program that's not in place right now. But these guys are learning how to work on cars. And there is a mechanic, a guy that owns a shop in Midland, Texas, that has really taken on this ministry and provided a lot of tools and provided a facility for them. We now have a full-time mechanic on staff that is not only training these young men, but they're bringing cars in. Like this car right here, they take apart and put together 50 times, right? They just keep learning and learning. But now they're bringing in people's actual vehicles, and the mechanic works on them and lets the kids learn how to work on actual vehicles and diagnose actual problems. And so that's been a real benefit to the program. And so they're learning. And again, this is like a big Lego set because it's been taken apart and put together I don't know how many times. But now that they're able to do, they're able to work on regular vehicles. Then they also have basically a cosmetology program where the girls learn how to fix hair. So they're doing weaves, they're doing cornrows, they're doing all kind of different ways to fix African hair. And it's a big deal. It's a big business there. And so when these girls leave, and some of them were at the Village of Hope and were not doing well in regular school, whether they had some kind of disability or whether they'd gotten so far behind. And so even some of the kids from the village have come here because it's a better place. One of the kids at Hope College, there's Gideon Sr. and Gideon Jr. They're twins. They're brothers, but Sr. was the firstborn, and 2 minutes later, Jr. is the secondborn, but they're both named Gideon. And Gideon Sr. is doing well in college, at Hope College, but his brother really struggled with his behavior because he wasn't learning well and he wasn't comfortable there. And they brought him here, and he says, I'm going to prove to them that I can do, that I'm different. And he did. He found his place where he was comfortable, and he's one of their top students in the sewing program. So the young lady in the sweater there, I think, is Mavis. Mavis was there at the village at one time, and she's been moved there. So they learn on all these hair products, how to do weaves, how to do all the different things. This is one of our drivers, Martine. Martine said, look, I have the head of an O'Bruni. And I said, yeah, I'll show that. So I did think it was funny that they were working on African hair on white doll heads. So a little different. But these girls learn a skill. Every kid leaves here with a set of tools, some cash and materials for them to set up their business when they leave. So they leave with a sewing machine and some materials and cash. They leave with mechanics tools and materials and cash. They leave with all the tools they need to fix hair, whether it's scissors and combs and different things. They leave with a hairdryer, and they leave so they can go and fix hair. Right there behind Martine is actually a little shop where they can have people come in and actually give haircuts and things like that. None of us signed up. So this is one of the things we wanted to show you. It's one of the things that will be on our Mission Sunday. There is a very nice housing development in Accra. And real quick, and then we'll finish up. I know we're going late, but not 2 hours, so we're doing better. It is a gated community with really nice 2-story homes. They've built this facility to help children like we have at the Village of Hope. And so what they're doing is they're donating the houses and the land to the Village of Hope, and we're going to house 0 to 5-year-old kids. If you've already got 20 kids in a home that are 5 years and older, to put a baby in there is not only tough on you as a parent, it's tough on that kid because now they're the baby of 20 kids. And so what we're looking at doing in these facilities, that's one house. The house to the right there where Brad is another home. And then we have this building, which would be like a preschool. And so we have these 3 homes that they have everything except plumbing and electrical fixtures that we need to put in and a little bit of paint, and they're ready to go. So we have parents that we're ready to put in there, and then as babies come, any kid 0 to 5, they'll be placed here. 5 to 10 young children with a parent and a surrogate set of parents that can go between the 2 houses to give relief to the parents that are raising them. So we have kitchen facilities, we have bath facilities, we have all that available. And so part of what is Mission Sunday will be money that goes towards this project. We believe it's about $40,000 will get everything ready, furniture and everything for move-in. The other thing is this is a very wealthy community. And what we know is people that drive, this is right at the gate of this gated community. So these people are going to drive by and see these beautiful children every day. So we think these children not only may be adopted, but they may be well taken care of by the benefactors that are there. So we wanted to show you that. This is our team. I wanted to show you that, what we look like without being surrounded by kids. And then, if I can tell this story without crying. So when we went in 2006, notice the date on this, October 29th, 2006, this story hits the New York Times about a kid that was living in slavery in the Volta region. Well, Oprah found out about it, and she put somebody on the hunt to go find these kids. Well, another lady was quicker than Oprah, and she got to these kids and worked with a relief organization. And the first Sunday that we were there in Ghana, when the boys and Sabre and I went, was their first Sunday. And that's Mark Akwadu. And he was on the cover of New York Times. He was brought to the Village of Hope, one of 7 kids. We called him the Magnificent Seven. He spent his life as a 5-year-old dipping water out of the boat so the boat wouldn't sink in this huge lake, so that they could make money for the guy that owned them as a fisherman. And so the first Christmas celebration, there's Mark again. There's 2. Mark is in his underwear and a T-shirt on this lake. And then that's one of the 7, and then Mark. And what you don't see in this picture is at the end of this big Christmas party, Mark went around and gathered food into a bag. And I followed him around, and he took the bag to his room because he didn't imagine that he would have food again tomorrow, because he'd never seen it before. And then we were so blessed. This is Mark helping serve communion at service. Now, as a grown man, a young man in high school or in college at the Hope College. And so we have to understand that when we talk about the trip that we made, we were blessed. Would you guys agree? We were blessed. It was definitely a blessing for us. We went to help, but we want you guys to understand what's at stake. We want you guys to understand the work that's in place. When we say lives are being changed, we mean lives are being changed. When we talk about mission work, when you talk to me or you talk to any of our other elders, the mission work we want to do is changing the lives of people, and we believe that Jesus changes the lives of people. And we appreciate your time today. Sorry we had so much, but we wanted to cover everything we could on this trip. And we wanted you to understand that, yes, we went. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it was fun. Yes, it was a blessing. Yes, I believe we were a blessing. But more than anything, you guys did this. You guys allowed us to go over there. You helped fund that and supported it. And even the work as you buy backpacks and bags, support kids having a different life than they would have if it wasn't for you. And we want you to understand that. And we want you to understand that everything that makes this possible is not the dollars. It's the love of Jesus. And so we never want to leave. We never want to stop this opportunity without giving you an opportunity to understand that what makes a difference, what sent us there was our love for Jesus. What makes this thing happen is the love of Jesus. And we want to give you every opportunity to also experience the love of Jesus. If you have any need, won't you come as we stand and sing?